Hi, I hope you're very well. My name's Willow Crossley and I'm so happy to be here with Monsoon to talk about the Easter table. So this year I wanted to create a kind of spring wonderland down the table, but I wanted it to be very easy to do, so very accessible and using things that anyone can get kind of from local garden centres or supermarkets or their local florist if they're open, but also stuff from the garden, so kind of lots of hellebores and grape hyacinths and spring shoots from the trees. And I just wanted to talk you through what I think might be lovely if you wanted to make your Easter table really special this year. So what I've got is some euphorbia picked from the garden. I've got hellebores, which are dreamy at this time of year. They can be quite diva-ish to work with, and that you pick them and they just drop down dead about 4 hours later. The key to this is to sear them, which means you boil the kettle or a saucepan of water, and then when it's boiled, you take about 10% of the length of the stem and plunge it into the boiling water. I know it sounds barbaric, but it really does work with these guys more than anything. So about kind of 10-15 seconds, being careful to protect the heads of the flowers from the steam, and then plunge into cold water, and this will give them a much better chance of living. Kind of tip wise with hellebores is the later on into the season they form these kind of seed heads in the middle that are like chunky pods. That is when they're at their best to pick them. But if you can't resist, like I can't now, try searing them first and keeping them really cool until you want to pick them. Also pick them last minute if you can help it. So I've got different colours of hellebores, different varieties. I have got some euphorbia, which I've just spoken about. I've snipped a couple of my grape hyacinths from my grape hyacinth bulbs. And I've got a couple of fritillaries, snake's head fritillaries. So I'm going to make a few little glass little cup vase arrangements with these, and then I'm going to mix them in with little potted ones. So these are muscari or grape hyacinth, and they were from my local garden centre, and I've had them for about 2 weeks to get to this stage when they're beautiful and kind of ready to use. And then I just took them out of their pot and I have dropped them into a jam jar. These are made by a company called Luminarc, and they're kind of really tough, and I use them again and again and again. So I you could use any plants if you can't get muscari, little baby paper whites or hyacinths or snake's head fritillaries. So I have them, and I also have snake's head fritillaries here in plant form. So often they come in these hideous pots like this, and I don't want that on my table. One option is you could wrap that pot in a lovely wallpaper sample or a bit of baking parchment, tie it with a ribbon. The other option, which I do a lot and I love, is to take a favourite bowl and then add a bit of gravel if you can. Just this acts as drainage. And then very gently tip them out and plop her in. And I actually love the space around these ones with these because I adore this bowl. You could use much smaller bowls. So for instance, I have this one here, which is much smaller. But then to kind of finish it off, what you want to do is get some moss. This moss I've found started growing on my studio roof tiles. So I whack on a pair of gardening gloves and then peel it off, and it just keeps coming back and back and back. So I'm just going round, covering all the soil up, and the moss has this kind of gorgeous velvety feel and look. So I'll keep covering that all the way around. And then because it's Easter, I have 3 boys, and I try and make it as kind of the table as it's got to be beautiful for me, but it's got to be interesting for them. So at Easter, what I'm going to do this year is I've got lots of little blown quail's eggs that I bought like this. And what I do then is I just kind of drop them into the arrangements like that. You see? So it just looks kind of, it's almost like a little still life. So I'm going to have a few planted arrangements and mixed it. And I've also got these little old terracotta pots, and these are paper whites. So then I will drop in some kind of quail's eggs to the top as well. I might finish off that with a bit of moss. And look at these. Look at those. So that's another variety of the grape hyacinth and muscari. I just love that kind of two-tone. They look like they've been dipped in snow. So lots of bulbs in pots. So I've got terracotta, I've got the Luminarc glass jars, and then just my favourite bowls. Baskets are another good option as well. She's a bit big, but really lovely option. So for my vases, I'm going to take a little mix. And so when you're arranging into vases, the proportion of the flower to the container is what's really important. So you want the flower to be about 1.5 times the height of the vase. So very sharp secateurs are really important. Cut on an angle, which I'm going to cut her off because she's going to get away, and just feed her in. Don't throw away little babies like that because she can go into something else. Actually, I've got these brilliant little kind of test tubes, and they're great for single stems. So if you've got one that break off, or the side shoots or something that doesn't quite fit, don't kind of, with any arrangement, this is just a small bud vase, but don't ever use flowers just because they're there. Don't just cut them off. You'd be ruthless, because otherwise it will ruin your shape of your arrangement if you're just using it because it's there. So kind of proportionately. I love my flowers to look very wild and whimsical. So I love them kind of shooting off like this. This is the euphorbia. You want to be very careful if you have euphorbia in your garden because it's got this white sap that is really toxic. I know this firsthand. I got some in my eye and have spent a day in A&E having been treated. So those are just going in. So I'm kind of feeding them in to kind of crisscross, which forms a grid, which means they'll support themselves. Ooh, let's get one of those. Joy of Muscari kind of are so great because they're so thin, so you can just slip them in to tiny little spaces. Are great for little bud vases. What I love as well this time of year is picking little side shoots off trees. So these are little buds that are going to be coming out. Excuse the state of my nails with the mud of the soil. So those I love, spring branches in the arrangements. I think are beautiful. And then I've also got, this is Spirea, which is one of my absolute favourite spring, kind of late spring, early spring foliages, Spirea, and she is so kind of whimsical and wild, and will be in all my arrangements while she's in season. So I keep it quite loose and airy, and think about the flowers at kind of all different heights. So that is pretty whimsical and wild. So then I'll do another. You always want to arrange in threes. So I'll have 3 things of muscari, so 3 bowls of plants, 3 little arrangements. They just kind of sit better and it feels less matchy-matchy. So then I'm going in again with another little cut vase arrangement, feeding in diagonal. I wonder if she's going to go. It's really nice having things kind of dripping over the lid, the neck of a vase. Yeah, she's going to be pretty. Got some more snake's heads. Look at those. Oh, I just love how they kind of just whiz off like that. And then this is my first wild currant I picked. This is another, I promise I don't say everything is my favourite, but she is one of my favourite foliages. And I just found it in the garden, which I only have one tiny bush of it, but it was so exciting to see it here, the first of the year. I think I've got a little bit more room in here for her. So it's quite tonal. So my tablecloth, I'm gonna go kind of crazy colour. I've got this beautiful wildflower tablecloth. So I wanted to keep the flowers quite tonal, so kind of greens and purples and blues. And I'm gonna sprinkle these little eggs everywhere and have lots of cream candles to kind of, and that will be it. It will be a complete kind of over the top, but I hope visually very exciting, and just, yeah, a celebration that there is light at the end of the tunnel. I hope you have a really happy Easter and that you've enjoyed it, and I would love to see what you create. Happy Easter. Bye.